Good evening, you're with Blueprint. I'm Madhadas Gopalakrishnan. We'll be discussing all the developments that are coming in from Amritsar. Navjot Singh Sidhu now coming out and trying to explain what had transpired 72 hours ago. But first, a look at the headlines. It was administrative apathy that let 61 people die. Netas, Babus passed the buck. But cameras do not lie. 3 videos expose callousness of cops and organizers.
ਇਹ ਤੇ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਜੀ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ। ਇਹਦੇ ਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਕਸੂਰ ਹੈ? ਪਰਸਨਲ ਰੰਜਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ।
Navjot Singh Sidhu blames the railways and his aide parrots the defence. Releases dramatic sham video blaming nature's fury and the speeding train for Amritsar deaths. Key witness in the Kerala nun rape case, Father Kuriakose found dead in Jalandhar. Family calls it murder. Claim it's a conspiracy, not a coincidence. As the war within the CBI chief and his deputy escalates, unprecedented raids are carried out at its own offices and a senior officer is arrested. Alarmed by the developments, the PMO summons the CBI chief.
हिंदुओं के मन में नफरत होगा, अगर वो नफरत ज्वाला में परिवर्तित हो जाएगा तब क्या होगा?
Mandir chants get louder as 2019 approaches. Now NDA Mantri Giriraj Singh responds to RSS chief's call, asks Muslims to back Mandir construction or prepare to face the wrath of Hindus.
We are working towards an alliance. You draw your own conclusions.
As Gathbandhan fizzles, top Congress general voices his insecurity. Salman Khurshid says opposition alliance must not be aimed at containing Congress. And we have some breaking news coming in. This is a big news break coming in at this point in time as far as the CBI is concerned. In fact, Times Now has accessed never before seen letters in the CBI versus CBI scandal. This letter was written by CBI number 2, Asthana, to the Cabinet Secretary, which includes confidential information and accuses CBI number 1 of a frame-up. This is in fact the latest information coming in at this point in time. The CBI chief has been accused of a frame-up by his number 2 man, that is of course Rakesh Asthana, and of course the letter that has been written by the number 2 in the CBI to the Cabinet Secretariat is what has really been accessed here by Times Now. This has in fact not been seen before. The letter written directly to the Cabinet Secretary by Rakesh Asthana that has been accessed exclusively by Times Now. We have Navika Kumar, our managing editor, joining us for more on the story. Navika, this is a big news break. Clearly, of course, this is the CBI's number 2 man who has written to the Cabinet Secretary.
That's right. We have with us documents that clearly show that this was the complaint sent to the CVC on the 24th of September 2018. This is the Central Vigilance Commissioner, Satkarta Bhavan. This is the letter written by Rakesh Asthana, the number 2 in the CBI. This letter being signed by Rakesh Asthana right here. This is the signature that we have, and every single detail has been pointed out. In fact, the detail of the man who is supposed to have bribed Rakesh Asthana is the detail that Mr. Asthana himself gave to the CVC as well as to the Cabinet Secretary as early as 24th of August 2018. So 2 months before the CBI has registered an FIR against Rakesh Asthana, Rakesh Asthana himself had given this information that this man, Sana Sheikh, had given this kind of a bribe to the CBI director, Mr. Alok Kumar Verma, and that is the whole detail of what has been listed in this. It says from the above as well as several instances listed above, cited 2 letters, it is very clear that both Shri Alok Verma, Director CBI, and Shri A.K. Sharma, the CVO of CBI, are having prejudiced and vengeful attitude towards me. They are determined to falsely implicate me in ongoing criminal cases, to besmirch my reputation and to adversely affect my career prospects. And that is the complaint that was sent in. It says, in interest of justice and in the spirit of principles of natural justice, it is requested that CVC may kindly constitute a special investigative team that does not include Alok Verma, Director CBI, and A.K. Sharma, the in charge additional director, in exercise of the powers of the Commission, statutory or otherwise, to expeditiously, fairly and impartially investigate the following cases. And the cases that he mentions are Sandesara Group, IT officials case, Sandesara Groups against Upendra Rai, also cases against Deepesh Chandak and Rakesh Tiwari. All of these cases are listed here. Mr. Rakesh Asthana's letter also details various investigations even talking about the INEX media case, the Sandesara case. But I also have with me Nikunj Garg, our internal security editor. Nikunj Garg has the letter that was written by CBI number 2 Rakesh Asthana to the Cabinet Secretary, dated the 24th of August. Nikunj, can you take us through what's written in that particular letter?
Well, yes, Navika, this is the letter that Mr. Asthana, and if my cameraman can actually show this letter to our viewers, this is the letter that it goes to the Cabinet Secretary, Rashtrapati Bhavan, New Delhi, subject sensitive, confidential, top secret marked letter. And of course, Mr. Asthana, clearly in this again, this is actually his first channel of reporting. Before writing to the Cabinet Secretary, this could not have gone to the Central Vigilance Commission as per the reporting structure of the Special Director of the CBI, just as you were reading out of that Central Vigilance Commission's letter, which is the final step taken in this entire matter from the point of view of the government's involvement in this ugly spat of number 1 and number 2 of the Central Bureau of Investigation. Now, Mr. Asthana in this case, in this letter, very clearly tells the Cabinet Secretary that a malicious campaign is being intentionally carried out with an objective to demoralize and harass me. And Navika, this is a very sensitive allegation, because remember, as I have been saying since yesterday, Mr. Asthana was handpicked by this government once they formed a SIT in the Central Bureau of Investigation to probe sensitive, super sensitive political graft cases, particularly political graft cases of the UPA era. There were certain other cases also with the SIT, like Vijay Mallya case, but most of its cases, like you were mentioning, INX News Media, 2G, Aircel Maxis, coal scam, and all those super sensitive cases were put under the overarching umbrella of the SIT, and Mr. Asthana was made in charge. Now, this man, if he goes ahead and writes that a malicious campaign is being intentionally carried out with an objective to demoralize and harass me, it clearly indicates that there is a hidden hand. There is somewhere a hidden hand which does not want the probe in such super sensitive political cases involving big names of the UPA era, like Mr. P. Chidambaram, Mr. Praful Patel, Mr. Chhagan Bhujbal, and to name the few, to go ahead with the right kind of earnestness. That earnestness is being derailed if this man's if Mr. Asthana's claims have to be believed. And clearly there is some substance to it, Navika, because no officer in the government, as you would know, better than most of us, would ever write to the Cabinet Secretary detailing such allegations, and then the matter is again given to the Central Vigilance Commission. In fact, the letter that you have comprehensively lists the instances. So it's not only empty talk, it is more than empty talk. Each allegation has been substantiated, and the Central Vigilance Commission, for the first time in the history of independent India and the history of Central Bureau of Investigation, brought in to a to firefight between the two top officials of the Central Bureau of Investigation.
Nikunj, hold your thoughts with me. This is the complaint that was sent to the CVC, and with me are these complaints. And what are the cases that have been mentioned by Mr. Rakesh Asthana in this? Point number 23. He talks about the Aircel Maxis deal. He talks about then on this page the INEX media case, and a very interesting point that's made in the INEX media case, where he talks about Karti Chidambaram in the instant case, also talks about the fact that whether there is a direct linkage of Chidambaram with the 2G linked companies having been overlooked by the special investigation team and ED authorities was a deliberate act of mischief or not needs serious consideration. So this is a very important point that has been made by Rakesh Asthana. He thinks there is sabotage in the case of Chidambaram's investigation, and this could have happened by one wing of the CBI or the Enforcement Directorate or both. That's the charge that he's made, and he says, and he has said this to the CBC, that this needs to be probed internally whether the SIT did let Mr. Chidambaram off the hook. Now that's the question that needs to be gone into. This is the special paragraph that has been written here in this complaint, and this complaint pertains to 24th of September. At that time, there was no FIR against Mr. Rakesh Asthana, Nikunj, and that will have to be borne in mind. Then he talks about the Sandesara cases. He talks about Afroz, Fata, Ahmed Patel and D gang. He's talked about that case. He's also talked about the Augusta Westland case. He's talked about the Malia extradition case. He's mentioned details of these cases here. He's also gone on to mention the induction of Jyoti Narayan into CBI, threatening CBI officers, PIL against Shri Rajeshwar Singh, JD in the Enforcement Directorate. All of these issues have been brought to the notice of the CVC. This clearly is not just about the CBI, Nikunj. It also brings into the purview the Enforcement Directorate, saying and hinting that all might not be well within the investigation agencies, the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI's certain wings. Now, who's speaking the truth and who's not? There's a war within the CBI, and let's just look at the charges that have been made. Charge number 1, influencing the probe by taking a bribe. And in this charge, Rakesh Asthana has said that this reveals information about CBI Chief Alok Kumar Verma allegedly taking a bribe in the Moin Qureshi case. Second, excluding suspects from the FIR. This is senior railway official omitted from the FIR in the IRCTC case, which involves Lalu Prasad Yadav and his family, alleges that CBI chief tried to call off raids in Lalu Yadav's premises. That's a huge charge. That's a huge charge. Shantanu Sen, former CBI Joint Director, joins me on the phone line. Shantanu Sen, let me point out to some of the charges and then I'll come across to you. Transfer of the bank fraud case. In this case, he says, alleges that bank fraud case against CBI officer transferred to Delhi under accused officer, not taking action in intelligence inputs, alleges that despite warning of accused in coal scam, accused fleeing, no lookout notice was served. Allegations of illegal gratifications in the illegal land acquisition case closed allegedly after money changed hands. These are serious complaints. Mr. Shantanu Sen, these complaints that we now have in our hand, Rakesh Asthana's complaints to the CVC, Rakesh Asthana's complaints to the Cabinet Secretary, all of these came much before the FIR against Mr. Rakesh Asthana came in. Mr. Shantanu Sen, what do you see this? Which side should we believe in? CBI number 1 or CBI number 2? Or do we raise question marks about the credibility of the premier investigation agency in this country, which is the CBI? Or is that really the opposition's plan to question the credibility of the CBI itself so that everybody accused by the CBI can then be let off the hook?
I think the main problem has been a wrong posting of chiefs in the CBI. You see, there used to be a standard of postings. People who have worked in the CBI as either SP or DIG or Joint Director were selected to become directors of CBI. When you post people who don't have experience of CBI working, this sort of mismanagement happens and everybody goes free because you can just fool the person at the top because he doesn't know how CBI functions. Now, Rakesh Asthana has been writing these letters. What has the government been doing, for God's sake? Is the cabinet secretary not aware of these complaints? Is the PMO not aware? Is the CVC not aware? Under the CVC...
You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head, Mr. Shantanu Sen. The government was aware. The CVC was aware. The cabinet secretary was aware. Just what's the government been doing about this war within the CBI? What about the credibility of the entire investigation process in such high-profile political cases? That's the big question. We'll take a short break. We'll come back to this big breaking story, breaking right here on Times Now. We've been ahead and right on top of this story. Nikunj Garg bringing us the latest on this story. We'll come back after this very short break.
Welcome back. The big story that we're breaking at this hour, of course, communication that has been accessed by Times Now exclusively. The number 2 in the CBI, Rakesh Asthana, writing to the Cabinet Secretary Nikunj Garg, who's actually broken the story, who has more on this. Nikunj, very clearly, a number of cases that have been cited by CBI number 2 about the kind of interventions that were happening, and these charges are extremely grave.
Well, yes, Madhav, keeping in mind the fact that these are super sensitive political cases, starting from Aircel Maxis to 2G scam to coal scam. Remember, the entire this was the entire campaign of anti-graft that catapulted Mr. Narendra Modi and the BJP government to power itself in the UPA 2's era. That was the principal reason why the BJP got the kind of momentum it finally got in 2014 elections. And to fulfill that poll promise, a special investigation team was formed in the Central Bureau of Investigation. And if the boss of the Central Bureau SIT of the CBI is now alleging in letter after letter after letter that those particular probes, which are extremely sensitive in nature, are getting diluted or are getting tinkered with at some stage, it's about time that government decides what it wishes to do. The Central Vigilance Commission is also seized of the matter. So is the Cabinet Secretary. Two of the topmost authorities in the government, the final and the topmost bureaucrat of the country, was approached by Mr. Asthana on 24th of August, 24/8/2018. Now, whether the complaints have the required amount of actionable material in them, whether the complaints stand in good stead, whether there is, or these are all apprehension that cannot be justified or cannot be proven. These are only apprehensions of a man who is heading the probe. All of that clarity has to be brought in by the central vigilance, by the competent authorities. And the competent authorities are clearly the Cabinet Secretary and the Central Vigilance Commission in this case. But why is the government taking such a long time in such a super sensitive matter, which is now started to actually politically hurt also the government? Because just today, the Congress President, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, has tweeted about the fact that how Mr. Asthana was actually a hand-picked man of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he was infiltrated into CBI. That may not be factually correct, because Supreme Court found absolutely nothing wrong with Mr. Asthana's appointment. Nonetheless, the big question is, the letters are fine, the apprehension of the probe boss or the SIT boss is in its place. The investigations getting compromised is something that is real worry, because remember, the people of this country saw the hope in Mr. Modi, that finally he will break this cabal, this Delhi-centric power cabal, which has for years thrived despite carrying on with all kinds of alleged wrong acts, and despite multiple cases coming to the fore, politicians continue to prosper. And that hope of the people, the bigger point is that hope of the people of a complete anti-graft crackdown by Mr. Narendra Modi's government is getting diminished, or that hope is getting, people are getting disillusioned with the entire series of events.
Absolutely, Nikunj. In fact, look at these charges: influencing probe by taking bribe, revealing information of CBI chief allegedly taking a bribe in Moin Qureshi case, excluding suspects from the FIR in the IRCTC case, and allegedly calling off raids at Lalu Yadav's premises, also not taking action on intelligence inputs, particularly as far as coal scam accused fleeing is concerned, illegal land acquisition. These are some very, very grave charges that are in fact being put out over here by CBI's number 2 man, Rakesh Asthana, and really, of course, as you put it, raise some serious questions about the conduct of the CBI chief and how he has been influencing, or at least attempting to influence, the course of these very sensitive cases.
Well, Madhav, again I go back to my principal point, that whether these are actionable inputs, whether these apprehensions can be justified in a legal manner, whether Mr. Asthana's charges against his boss or other individuals whom he has named hold ground, all that has to be adjudicated, and that adjudication has to be done by the authorities outside the Central Bureau of Investigation, and those authorities are the Cabinet Secretary and the Central Vigilance Commission. Now, both the authorities have been approached by Mr. Asthana, but what is it that is holding these authorities back? Remember that despite the fact that there is a Supreme Court judgment about the appointment and the tenure of the chief of CBI, nothing halts the government to order an impartial probe. Obviously, you know, these charges that Mr. Asthana
Right. All right, Nikunj, we have to slip into a quick break now. We'll continue to report on this massive development and documents that you have accessed on the other side.